Welcome back to Healing in Spanglish. It's your hosts, Metztli and Ixchel, your Boyle Heights besties, figuring out what wellness looks for us and our people.
So let's get real about healing in all the ways we weren't taught but deeply deserve. So the theme for today is relationships. Fun. So we're going to be learning a little bit about relationship styles, attachment styles, and we're going to be talking about our own experiences as we've dated throughout like our early 20s. We'll get into emotional availability, a lot of things around how we feel like relationships haven't worked out and things we've learned over the years and how we're healing from, the wounds that we grew up learning at home and, just trying to find a good partner that is really investing in themselves and reflecting what we're putting out there as well.
Yeah, and I think even more specifically, we're going to be talking a lot about men.
Yeah.
As a forewarning, that's kind of going to be more of the theme of what we're talking about, our experience around men. And that even involves sometimes our own like father figures growing up. Why this whole idea around, we make a ton of jokes of why it's so difficult to date men in this society. And if there's any good ones left in the world. So that's really the core of it that we're getting to.
But we're not here to drag men.
We're not here to drag them completely. Not completely, but we welcome, and this is our perspective, so we welcome all the perspectives that might come up and that might start a conversation here. So yeah, and then we'll first start with our word of the week, of course, our Spanglish word of the week, which once again, little by little, Ixchel and I are realizing the many different ways that we say words in our own households growing up. One of the things we were thinking about was we're talking about kids, long story short, not our own. We're just talking about kids in general, children. And, typically for us, we say niño, niña, but also my own partner says it differently. It's like cipote. And there's like different also like other slang words. And then even you said
patojo.
Patojo. I'm like, why is this so long?
Patojo.
Patojo. A little kid.
Usually it's followed by a cuss word.
See, yeah, slang, yeah. It sounds so professional though. For it to be,
what?
Yeah, it sounds so like fancy to me.
What?
Like
how do you
niño
say
is just niño.
Chamaco?
Chamaco también. Yeah, that's more the slang version. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that's true. It's long too. But it's
chamaco.
Like... Yeah, chamaco. Chamaquito. Chamaco.
Patojito. Patojos. Patojas.
That's so funny. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, but we realize we say it so many different ways. So honestly, I feel like at this point, every single week, we're figuring out different ways that we refer to kids. And a lot of it is slang though. Like a lot of it is more informally.
Slang.
Or is that the actual proper? No, right?
I don't
What's
think
the proper way of the kid?
Niños.
Oh, okay, too.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's what
so
it
it's the
is.
slang version. Cool.
Proper,
right now.
Yeah.
Anyways. So that's the word of the week. Yes. And then our mini healing confession. What are you working on?
So my healing confession this week is just to spend more quality time with my family. Also like just giving them more physical affection. Aww. Because I always get really sad when they're older. So I'm like, I don't know when they'll disappear from this earth.
Yeah.
But yeah, just spending more time with them for sure.
I love that. And your dad's back.
I know.
Yeah. Her dad brought her the cutest.
Oh yeah.
¿Cómo se llama?
Shaw.
I've ever seen. I was so jealous. Yeah, I'm gonna go hunting for one.
You gotta go to Guatemala. There you go.
To get one. Yeah. And then my healing confession. I've been dealing with a ton of back pain. So annoying. It's definitely caused by the fact that I sit while I work most of the time, and yeah, you naturally kind of like go downward little by little. And so I'm working on my posture. I'm working on stretching more. I'm also trying to do core workouts every night for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And I have a walking treadmill now. Shout out to my sister who's letting me use her since she never uses it.
Wait, it's hers?
Yeah, she got one for free. So yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah, I know. So now I'm using it.
Good for you.
I know. It worked out because honestly I need it. I've just been... Yeah, sitting and I get comfortable on the couch too because I'm with my dog. So I'm working on that. It's more of a physical healing process for me right now that I'm working on.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah,
I don't wish anybody back pain.
It's the most horrible thing.
Yeah,
I hate it.
It's so bad.
Yeah, so take care of it now before it gets there because then suddenly it'll start hurting and then you're gonna have to do a lot of the work to undo it. Yeah,
and I realize everyone has back pain. I think it's just normal.
Oh, right.
I hear a lot of people say they have back pain.
Yeah, it's bad.
And typically it's because I have an injury.
Right, you do have an injury. Yeah.
But
I mean, the way we're shifting in this world in general, I mean, to like a sedentary lifestyle at this point, yeah, unfortunately the back pain comes. But okay, we're going to jump into the first question.
Yes.
Can I get into it?
Yes. So what comes to mind when people generally say there are no good men left.
Yeah, I think when a lot of particularly women that I talk to that say like there's no good men in this world, I think a lot of the things that come to mind for me are the fact that we experience a lot of inconsistency, like just just the basic kind of ability for sometimes I think us to know, reciprocate, get something in return. Like a lot of it is kind of wishy-washy to me. I don't know. At
Like
least
one-sided?
Yeah, or just the effort's not reciprocated.
Okay.
It's inconsistent. You don't really get the same person, I think, sometimes. I think also ghosting is a big thing, like just kind of disappearing with no context, no reason, or nothing kind of explained, which is also why I think people think of like there are no good men. Like, it's very annoying and very immature. I also think I think a big one that we'll talk about too is the lack of emotional maturity, or just the ability to show or communicate your emotions, be vulnerable. I think that's something that, as you do the own work, maybe as like, let's say ourselves as women, and are able to understand and heal through our own processes in life, you then find it attractive to be able to see another person also be able to communicate those things and be okay to show emotion in also positive ways, which I think sometimes we think like crying is seen as like a negative, but it's actually a really positive emotion sometimes, something good happens. I love crying. I cry for fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say those things are like the things I think of when I say there's no good men left. Like they just have all those issues. Yeah.
I'm on the same boat. I feel like you touched on both same, but I think for me is like emotional availability too.
Big one.
And I also think like I'm really like, I feel like I focus a lot on my mental and holistic well-being, and I haven't really seen that in like a men counterpart where they really prioritize, their health, like what they're eating, what they consume. It just kind of feels like they're living like whatever's. And I also think part of it is I've also seen that I don't know, like some men lack a lot of ambition. It's just kind of like,
it's unfortunate,
well, this is like where we're at and we're not really going to move, or, I just feel like a lot of my experiences and what I've seen from like folks that are in like relationships like that I know of, like, I just feel like sometimes for the men, the bar is really low. And like the women are up here, so it's really hard, and it's happened to me so many times. So I just feel like it's that like there's just so much of a disconnect when I'm like, I feel like I'm working so much on myself, and then like the other person is literally doing the bare minimum.
Right. And I think we'll actually even, we can kind of dig into it now a little bit more. There's even data that shows, and I think can kind of complement what you're saying around women being up here, right, and being ambitious and doing a lot of amazing work and working on themselves and just being badass, right, doing whatever it is that they're doing, and it doesn't feel the same on the other end of men. And there's also some data that kind of adds to this that we were looking into that talks around the fact that women are definitely the majority within the education system as well. Like it is a growing number of women who actually are getting a higher education, who are actually pursuing higher education, who are taking over also different workforces that they once didn't. And so I think also, the fact that women are pursuing higher education at a faster rate than men are, and also like within the workforce too, sort of is like one factor, right, of many that probably also influences like when you go to higher education and start to learn more about the world or whatever it is, you see that less around you because there's less of them there, So I think that's one factor, but I just think that's something that was interesting when I was looking into it, that women are definitely like at the forefront of like our education system right now, as students, as learners, all of that, even in the workforce too. So I think that's interesting.
I was curious, so how much do you think like your standards were influenced by the relationship you saw with like your father or at home, like in your current relationships?
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting because I think a lot of the way I might be influenced when it comes to dating based on my experience growing up kind of happens subconsciously. Like, it's not like not like you're consciously seeing what your parents are doing, experiencing, and then think like, oh, this is what I want, or this is what I want, or feel like I should receive. I think you do it subconsciously a lot of the times. Like, you see it and you see the behavior, and then I think oftentimes I grew up thinking, I see that and don't want that, and then still ended up in those situations,
Yeah.
Which is so interesting because it's not what you necessarily are actively saying you want, but because that's what you know and are aware of. I mean, it's also natural that what you witness and how you witness maybe treatment towards one another, communication with one another, then that will influence you automatically, because it's also like a sense of comfort, I would say. Like, you kind of also pick people based on what is familiar. And I think that was like a big thing for me. Like, it was familiar. So for example, my parents' communication, actually a better one that I've been working on in my own relationship. Sorry, there's a lot, but I never saw my parents really show physical affection. Like, it was probably even, or still is, the oddest thing if I don't think I've ever seen them kiss, actually. Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever seen them kiss. Even hugging, those more on like a rare occurrence. And for me, that has processed as when I see them hug, it must be a really good day. It like means so much that it's like a hug, or because that's as much as I'd ever see as like a physical connection, reaction that they'd have to one another. And so, for one, I grew up already feeling very weirded out or uncomfortable by showing physical affection to anyone, right? Even to friends. I think we talked about this, but I've never had even like girlfriends that I'm like, I want to hug you. I'm like, you hug me first and then I'll hug you. But I will never initiate. And I think I didn't realize that, but I was influenced by what I saw growing up. And even in my own relationships that I've been in, with like a boy, a man, whatever, another human being. I know, I'm like, whatever.
A boy? What are they?
Because I'm thinking about the past too. They were boys. But even then, I remember it being so difficult to show any physical anything. Like, I've even gotten what feels like called out by like a person before who felt I was trying to hide him and not show any appreciation because I didn't want to hold his hand in public. And that's not what it was. Not that, but it was the fact that, but it was the idea that it was so uncomfortable to ever do it in front of people, because my parents never did that in front of anybody, never did that in front of us. I was uncomfortable by it. It was not normalized. It was just weird to me. I also felt like there were other stronger ways to show affection than physical, even though that is a very important one to a lot of people. But to me, it wasn't, because that was not the way my parents showed appreciation. That was not how they showed it to each other, right? Like, it was always through what feels like more of like acts of service, right? Always doing things for each other. And that meant a lot. So I always did it that way. I've always felt like the strongest way to show someone you love them is by doing something for them, by doing the dishes, by doing an errand, by helping them with something, right? So that's always what I thought, well, if I'm doing that, then that's enough. But it's not always enough. And for like my current partner, let's say Josh, physical affection is something that he actually grew up with. And it was something that was so important to him and is a big part of what shows him that you appreciate him. And so it's like, it's something that I'm trying to unlearn, that actually it is more important than I thought it ever was, So I think, long story short, I saw my parents, their dynamic, and it did influence me, but not consciously. And so I think I kind of went a little bit separate than talking about standards, I would say.
Well, I mean,
here.
it did kind of.
But more on the flip side, actually, of what I need to work on, funny enough. That's what I said. But I think like going back to how my standards might have been influenced in general, that as an example, I think just the behaviors that I saw in general from my parents did influence what I thought I should receive. So obviously communication was not the greatest, I would say. And so I also didn't really know how to communicate or feel like the need to say things, how I felt about certain behaviors. Shutting down was like a big thing in my family. And that's, I've been working on that, because a lot of the time I'll just shut down. Like, I just need to go away and don't want to talk to anybody. And that's just how the behavior was kind of instilled in me. So yeah, those are like some immediate examples, but I definitely think like even if you don't think you're influenced by them, a lot of people say as a joke, like you date what you saw because you might not even mean to purposely, but it's kind of what feels familiar, what feels comfortable, what you know, and then it doesn't end up influencing you until you work on it. Yeah. What about you? Do you feel like you were influenced at all by what you saw growing up?
Yeah, I definitely, especially because I didn't have any siblings, so I was just kind of around my parents all the time. Yeah, and I grew up in a very dysfunctional home, so it was really rough because I felt like from a very early age, I was a mediator in my parents' relationship. Like they had a very emotionally abusive relationship. And so my idea of love was always attached to like violence and emotional abuse. And so I kind of normalized that. And so like, I think as I've gotten older and like been in relationships, I was in a very abusive one which was insane too, because like, I remember being very little and my mom telling me like, Mija, like, I don't want you to repeat the same patterns. And in my head, I was like, yes, like, I don't want to do that. Yeah. Like I see how much damage it causes in the family and like how it's impacted their mental health. But it's kind of inevitable and it's kind of insane.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, I think about it so much. I'm like, if I would have maybe gotten like mental health support when I was younger, maybe it would have changed something. But I really do think like you have to experience, unfortunately, these really horrible situations. And so, yeah, I definitely like a lot of my standards were like, I had no standards, just say that like very early on. Yeah.
And I think another big factor too, when it comes to relationships, this is the last thing I'll say on like the parents' end, is I don't know about you. I didn't actually grow up with parents that talked to me about relationships. So, and I think sometimes it is a common experience for a lot of women in our community. It's uncomfortable. My mom was raised by a single mother who was very busy working and only had brothers. So she really never had anyone to talk to about relationships, about even anything, right? The topics of like your own experience as a woman and what that it kind of entails. And so her raising me as the first child, my mom never talked to me about things of like intimacy or even intimate parts of me. And so I feel like when you have no one to talk to about it growing up, you also then have no way to know, is this healthy? Is this not?
Yeah.
Is this person treating me right? Like you don't, because you don't even talk to, I couldn't go to my mom to talk about it. She never talked to me about it. So it was very uncomfortable bringing anything up. So I think also a lot of the times if anyone else experiences this and doesn't have like a parent to talk to about it, and oftentimes it is the mother, if anyone, because the dad probably very uncomfortable. My dad never.
No, my dad's like,
hell no. But even then, like if you don't talk about it, it's probably even harder for you to understand, is this something that's good for you, not good for you, you know? And I really learned for the first time anything about relationships in college from like seniors in their 4th year at UCLA. That was the first time I had women who actually taught me about things. And they taught me so much because I had no idea. And by teach me, I just mean basic things about how to understand and work towards like healthy relationships. Like I didn't know what that looked like. And also to get what they felt I deserved, you know, because I didn't know. I thought, I don't know what I thought. I didn't have standards either.
Like I really didn't
have
so
standards. Interesting though. Yeah. Did you grow up with like your mom talking about stuff with you? What do you say?
Yeah, I mean,
you're also the only child.
Yeah,
so
I think she did talk to me about like sex and like safe
That's
sex.
Good.
But like to some degree, it came from like if you do this, this will happen.
Right,
from a
like
very
still kind of negatively
so I
attached.
Like I definitely did talk about it, and I learned about my period, all that stuff. But yeah, there's definitely some things that she didn't like touch on. Like I think,
like super uncomfortable.
Yeah, like she would tell me though, like you're gonna repeat the same patterns if like you don't like learn. Like you got to break free from this shit because you're gonna end up in a situation like me. And I was like, okay, like 8-year-old me was like, okay,
yeah, of course,
But a little bit, but still from a very like fearful lens.
Right.
It was just harder.
And I do wonder sometimes. I don't know what your experience is like, but when it comes to men, I do wonder if it was more normalized. I definitely think I've seen from men that I've talked to, it is more normalized for them to talk about it, like have those conversations early on.
Like relationships?
Like intimacy, sex, like things like that. Like or even like mothers or parents accepting boys dating early on. Like I feel like for women, a lot of times when you're younger, like it's not as accepted, like it's not as normalized. And for men, it's, oh yeah, cool. Like,
yeah, whatever. And
so I feel like that already, though, it's not that they're talking about things, but it's that it kind of opens the door a little bit to welcome those conversations.
Yeah.
Whereas like a woman, it's not even okay to date someone.
Yeah.
And so then
Like,
it's
we
like,
don't
why
talk
am I
about
even going
that.
to talk?
Yeah.
Why am I even going to talk about anything else possibly? You know? So I just mean that like,
No, I see what you mean.
it's more of like an opener for men because it's like okay if you date when you're younger. And I'm like, why? Interesting.
I
Why
just
not
think
us?
it's the whole like they want them to get married and have kids.
It's very
and
interesting.
Stuff, so
Yeah.
They're more open to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Something else that we wanted to talk about, which maybe some of y'all are familiar with, are attachment styles, the different ones. We're not experts by all means, but we have in our own experiences figured out and learned our own styles and just like done some research as well. So my question to you that I wanted us to dig into is how do attachment styles show up in our dating patterns and conflicts that we might deal with? Like, yeah.
So I mean, attachment styles from like my own research that I've done and, you know, my own work in therapy is like the way they form is the relationship you had with your caregivers early on. So, right, like was there emotional, physical neglect? So all of that kind of like impacts the way you interact in like an adult relationship, how you respond to like triggers, how you set boundaries, how emotional available you are. And yeah, it's really impacted, honestly, like my relationships. Like I learned about it probably like in college. I was like, oh shit, like I'm not the healthiest that I claim to be. So yeah, I've noticed that like sometimes like at times it can be a little bit like anxious because I think like for a lot of like my household dynamics, like I feel like I was always on the fence of like what my parents were next fight was going to be. And so like sometimes they were more focused on that than like on me. And so like I was always kind of like hyper vigilant and so just anxious. And so I saw it show up a lot in my relationships. Specifically, I would say like my last one where I was attempting to build like a healthy relationship, but I genuinely had like no skills or any capacity. And I think that's where a lot of like the codependency stems from, kind of just feeling anxious, like something bad was going to happen or like my lack of trust. So a lot of it is really tied to like my childhood. And so like I've come to understand that like everything I learned at home, like my brain just viewed it as normal. And so I'm trying my best to kind of like heal from that because research actually shows that if you are really, you know, like invested in healing your attachment style, which you can't really heal from because it's kind of like the wounds you have, it's more so working towards leaning more like to secure. You can you really can heal that part of yourself. So as long as you're like conscious of that behavior and actively working on it in your relationship, like it's possible. But yeah, I think it's very interesting because I think it doesn't only affect like your relationship with like a man, it also shows up like in your relationship with friends. But yeah, that's kind of been like my little experience with it.
So for anyone though that doesn't know attachment styles, can you just like list out the different types? And then a follow-up question I have for you that I'm curious about, if you're open to sharing, is more just based on your experience in therapy, knowing that you have this anxious attachment style and that's what, or at least you originally had growing up. What are like simple ways that, I don't know if there's practices or things that have been helpful to work towards that secure attachment style? So both, if you could like list them out, what are they? Because there's 3, right?
I think there's
four.
Yeah.
Just so people know, because maybe this is unfamiliar for some people.
Yeah. There's 4, like Metztli said. There's anxious. So that one is typically, it shows up in like the lack of trust, feeling like the relationship is going to end and you're like
anxiety.
Like just really anxiety. That's what it is.
Fear.
Just kind of feeling on the edge all the time. And then there's avoidant, which is the polar opposite of that, where like you're kind of shutting down most of the time.
Dismissing it, don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, we don't talk about it. And then there's disorganized, which is a beautiful mix of both of those. I love that. Yeah, so you can, obviously, like, we're humans, right? We don't fit just into one category. So you can be a mix of anxious and avoidant. So maybe in some circumstances or situations, you might show up more avoidant than you do anxious. And then the last one, which we hope we all hope
to work towards.
Yeah, works towards is secure attachment style. Yeah, and that one is the one where it's kind of like, you know, like if you were in a relationship and there's a conflict happening and maybe you're the type of person that like overthinks that maybe you're the person that started all and you're the problem, like you're okay with there being conflict and, you know, not really feeling like it's you, like you're very secure within yourself. Like if a relationship ends, if somebody ended it, you're kind of just accepting of that. So yeah, and also being like available emotionally
to talk through.
Through things. So
cool.
that's the one.
Cool. Yeah, just in case you didn't know the different ones. And there's also a lot of probably sites that you can also look up, and it'll ask you questions, a series of questions, and it'll help you, maybe not officially, but be familiar towards which one you might be currently in. So if you're curious about your attachment style, that's like a fun activity. So you can see, and sometimes you might even know which one you're leaning towards, but it's sometimes helpful to actually see what the internet says.
To just learn more about it, because you're like, oh shit, that's true. I do identify with that.
And then, what have you done any, can you identify like any specific practices that have helped you work towards secure attachment style?
I mean, I think like I used to be very reactive.
Got it. Same.
And I think when I started going to therapy, like my sophomore year of college, I remember that was something I wanted to work on. And so in my like previous relationship, like one of my biggest things was like, if there was a conflict or something, like I wanted to remove myself, but not from like an avoidant lens, more so in taking a step back from the situation, because I do tend to sometimes say shit. Just over the years, I've tried to work on my reactivity, because sometimes when there's, when somebody attacks you, you by default want to attack back, defend yourself. And
you feel hurt.
I feel like growing up, I was like that at home. Specifically, like if my parents came at me, I'd be like, "What?
Well, get this,
get your facts straight." And so I noticed it pop up a lot in like my last relationship, and so I was trying to work on like not just word vomiting and then like saying everything that's like mixed into like really heavy emotions. And so I worked on kind of like stepping away from conflict sometimes as a way to like get myself into control, like go through my waves of emotions and then come back from a more clearer state of mind. And to be able to handle that conflict. But honestly, like I will say that like I learned a lot in like my last relationship. That was, I would say, like my first real adult relationship. I'm so fucking young, so I'm still learning, honestly.
Of course,
like my therapist and I really just talked about like my attachment style, and I feel like I can share that I was a disorganized person. I probably still have some parts of that. So I definitely had a mix of anxious and avoidant. And I saw it show up a lot in my relationships. And so I think now I've worked on it and I've tried to practice it with friends, because obviously I'm not in a relationship, but it's kind of like a thing where you have to learn by experience, fortunately, but unfortunately, right? Because like I feel like I am very conscious of a lot of behaviors that I have and like I want to learn from and lean towards secure attachment, but I wouldn't really know until I was in another relationship. And kind of just see how I react to everything.
Well, I definitely identify with an anxious attachment style, and some of the ways that I've improved so much was initially early on in my current relationship, when there was a conflict that would come up, I would get so overwhelmed, feel like it's the end of the world, like emotional, and just feel like just because one little thing was wrong, feel like everything is wrong in my life, and just like completely feel like I am in shattered pieces. And I would not let my thoughts would just start running, and then it would lead to another, and it was so overwhelming, and I could not like just be calm and control. I couldn't control my emotions, and so some of the things that I've been working on, one is like actually naming the feeling. I think I've never grown up like naming. I feel irritated. I feel disappointed. Like I was not able to name feelings, as simple as that is. So something that I've been working on is actually being able to name the emotion initially, because I think I don't have like clarity in the moment of what's bothering me and why I'm overwhelmed. So when I like name it, it helps me kind of understand why I'm feeling this and talk about it. And so, I think naming emotions too is actually really helpful, because it kind of gives you some clarity as to what you're feeling and where it's coming from. Or doing something that helps you slow down, whether it's like walking or journaling or something that helps you like bring your thoughts together. So depends on your situations, but for me, like those little things have been really helpful towards being able to like slow down my mind,
that's valid. I'm a mix of both, so I definitely feel you on that.
One more thing I wanted to ask you on this kind of part of the conversation is why you even think men don't have like this emotional maturity or ability, vulnerability that we talked about. Where do you think that comes from? from your experience of like knowing and researching it, like where do you think that stems from?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one thing is the patriarchy, right? Like the patriarchy doesn't teach you to normalize.
God, I love it.
Expressing your emotions, right? I think it's very fixated on like having to be a very tough person, put on like this persona of, I think it shows up for us in like machismo, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think, like, I just think it's been like generations where it's been normalized to just be like this, and it's not okay to really express yourself, which I think is crazy because I always think like a lot of these men have anger issues, and I see it show up, like I've seen it in my household, I've seen it everywhere else. I'm like, you can feel emotion, but all the other ones like aren't real.
Right.
So yeah, I just think it's a lot like of what people learn in our household. Like I can speak from my own experience. My dad doesn't know how to like articulate his emotions. He doesn't know really how to express himself, and so like,
you think that comes from it just not being normalized, you're saying, or like it just being something he should not show?
Yeah, no, I think it's like it's been taught like culturally, like with the friends and like his family that like made him grow up, like he grew up with, obviously. And I just think like, also I think my father's dad, my grandpa, died very early on, so he didn't really have anyone, and then he had like his single mom who was just hustling, trying to figure out how to survive, right? And so she didn't really have the capacity to teach him. And so I just don't think like it's something that's normalized in the larger society that we live in, and there isn't really anybody teaching that to men, right? I feel like now we're seeing it come up more often. But yeah, I just feel like it's not normal. So I think for a lot of men, it's uncomfortable. As I've seen it, like for my dad, like sometimes when he feels an emotion or he cries, like he really fast wants to like not even show any of his emotion. So yeah, I just think it's honestly like how comfortable they are being surrounded by that. And I just think a lot about like their friendships too. Like when I see some like men interact, like it's very like, I'm a macho, like this is what it should be. So it's just everywhere they're surrounded by this idea of emotion is not important, behave, right? Like this is how you should behave if you're a man.
Right, yeah. And I can say the same for my own dad too. It's very rare, or my brother, to see them show certain emotions, right? Like the ones that they associate or that are not normalized or accepted. I think we are working towards normalizing that more, which is great, but we're still not completely there. And so I definitely think I saw, my brother and my dad don't really cry often, don't really name feelings, don't really express or communicate when they feel a certain way. They kind of just walk away, kind of avoid it, I would say, more than anything. But I do think it's really interesting and sad because I definitely do think sense of community is a big factor as to why men don't have the ability to, communicate these things, say what they're feeling, be vulnerable with each other, because I definitely think, and there is also research that, I mean, when we see spaces, there is a lot of spaces for women, and it's normalized to talk about our mental health a lot more, to dig into that, to be vulnerable with one another, have deep friendships. And we have a lot of more places that we're doing that together now. And I still don't think there's a lot of places for men to do that. I can very much only name a very few amount of orgs that are for men to be vulnerable with one another. Like there's this one org like gets men together in camping, and you're supposed to like talk about like how you feel, and also like it's a political activist group, and it's super cool, but there's not a lot of those spaces. And I think it's amazing that we have them for us, for sure. But I think that's definitely one thing that men struggle with and need more space to do that with each other, because they don't do it. They can't do it. Like a lot of the men that I talk to, it's around women. And I've even had guy friends who say, oh yeah, when I'm with him, like they act different when they're with a guy. Like they, like you said, act in a different manner. Because it's just like the way they're supposed to behave with each other. I don't know. It's so interesting, but there's definitely not enough spaces for it. I definitely also think, as we also see trends where women are seeking mental health support, like women are going to therapy or seeking those resources, entering spaces, and men are actually on a decline of that support. Like they are not seeking the mental support or mental health support as much as women are. There's also like an increase of like loneliness among men versus women. So the more isolated you are, the more you're never going to actually become vulnerable or talk about your feelings. So I think a lot of the way also it's just not really spaces or places to do that for them also adds to their ability to be able to show up emotionally in a relationship. And so it's unfortunate because they're not seeking the help, and I know it's not normalized, and hopefully there are ways, and I wonder if there are ways or strategies already to get men to like feel like it's okay, but I do wonder, like, it's so ingrained.
Yeah, it is so ingrained.
And I also don't think sometimes we as a community help that, like normalize that. I think a lot of people do make jokes around like,
oh, for sure,
men being emotional, or men, like, it's unfortunate, and it's just normalized probably in like also older generations, like that's also not really accepted even to them. And so it's just so interesting that like it's something that I think is avoided altogether because it's just not normalized in general, you know? So it's really sad because I think we see that a lot in a lot of fathers, a lot of like our father figures. And it makes me sad because when I see my dad like not being able to say how he feels, and instead maybe it's at a place of anger. I'm like, dang, I wish you could, like, for your own sake, be able to like express how you're feeling. And I don't know, it's just so interesting.
That's interesting.
And then that also affects obviously us as women, our experience with them, because then we get the burden, we get the experience on the flip side of like a cold or like non-emotional or mature person, you know. And I think that's why we also associate like these men are shit, you know. But we get the flip side of what we experience, what they're kind of avoiding, you know. If that makes sense.
And we end up, like, at least I could say for myself, like I end up finding very similar people that like resemble characteristics of my dad, like being emotionally unavailable, and it just keeps repeating as a cycle.
Okay, so something that we wanted to dig into a little bit more before we close off the conversation is, do you think, as we've kind of touched on a little bit, women doing the healing work a lot faster than men are, reaching and getting resources for their mental health and unlearning a lot of things for themselves in their own healing journey, do you think that healing actually changes standards for women? Do you think it's changing the way women are allowing themselves to receive from the men around them? Or do you think it just brings clarity? Like how do you think the healing process can influence women's choices with dating now?
Well, I think it brings a lot of clarity for sure. Cause honestly, like I can speak on myself. When I went to therapy, like I was learning a lot about like relationship styles, attachment styles, kind of like my idea of love and what it was attached to. So I think with the healing and the inner work, it does really raise your standards, right? Because I think before maybe you used to normalize like abuse, emotional abuse, and the bare minimum. But it's like after you've done the work on yourself, you just kind of realize that you want better for yourself, right? You want a healthy, secure partner, right? You want somebody that's emotionally available, especially like as you're like doing the work yourself. Like I think a lot about like, obviously I want to be able to, the same expectations that I have for someone, to be able to reflect them as well. So I do feel like it definitely does impact your standards. I would say that like I said before, I had no standards. I was just accepting anything. So, I think that's really helped me definitely raise my standards. And to some degrees, I'm like, damn, like, is my standard too high? But I don't think so. Like, I just think I've definitely healed from a lot of things. And I'm expecting the same thing, like all the inner work that I'm doing from a counterpart. So I think it definitely does for sure.
And I think something interesting that I wanted to add to this was the fact that we as women are raised sort of, I don't know if you agree with this, but enter relationships because we see how our mothers behave or women around us, kind of mothering a man, you know, like kind of feeling responsible to help them grow. That was like my first experience ever, taking care, feeling like you need to fix them sort of, you know? And I think when you do the work of unlearning, you also unlearn that behavior. Like you also, part of the healing process is also learning that you don't need, it's not your responsibility to do that for a man. And so I think also because we learn to stop mothering men, when you start to do the work, you start to feel like you're not responsible to fix one. You're gonna see the red flag sooner. You're also gonna, your maybe your values are gonna change in what you see when you date someone, right? Like the ambition, the initiation, the ability to self-motivate, right? And so I think it feels less like a relationship dynamic should be a responsibility to help someone, and that's how you're fulfilled. Because I think that's how I thought. Like, well, me helping a man is that's kind of part of the relationship. Because I saw that a lot. But then when you start to unlearn that, you're like, no, that's not actually. They should help me grow just the way I'm helping them grow, and support and have the basic bare minimum abilities to communicate, to
emotionally regulate.
Regulate to all of those things. And so I think also like when you start to learn that, you stop
being a mother,
settling for that. You stop doing that. And I think also one thing that I'll touch on too is this idea of like a mismatch theory. And I know we touched on the fact that women are taking over, the education, the college educated labor force specifically. And I think this is an interesting topic that I hear a lot of people talking about. And then I wonder like what your opinion is too. And it's probably like a gray area, tricky one.
Yeah.
But I think as we start to, let's say, become educated and get like a more exposure to the world and grow as individuals and whether it's also financially or just emotionally, whatever it is, there's this idea of this mismatch theory that as you grow as an individual, the shift of what you are open to receiving in a social kind of context from men, it changes, right? So this might, in simple terms, be you start making a lot more money, you are educated. Does that at all, do you think that influences you being okay with dating someone who's not educated? Not educated in the traditional form, right? So do you think that influences or changes you at all with like this idea of like a mismatch theory? Like you're no longer open to that, like, or even financially too? Like how does that play a role in your life? Because I've heard a lot of different opinions around like being okay with dating someone who didn't get an education or did, or makes way more money or makes way less. Like, is that something that influences like your dating?
I think like maybe a year ago, no, I like was kind of like whatever's about it. But I think now, as I feel like I hate even to say it because it feels very elitist.
It is,
right?
Exactly.
Like I want somebody that matches my education, my career drive, right? Do you care about your finances? As much as I would not like for it to be such an important factor in like my standards, it is. Like I think I just have to be more accepting of that. My best friend always jokes about me. He's like, "Why do you always date men that are like below the bar of you? Like you're Miss Corporate Girl over here, and then like you're dating men that are like
it's the idea of mothering though too. Like
because I've been in relationships where people have told me like, because of you I've become a better person, or I've been more financially responsible, and I'm like, why did it have to take me coming into your life? Like you couldn't do that for yourself. So yes, unfortunately but fortunately, that is something I really do care about, especially because we live in this world, right? So I do hope that I am financially responsible and that you are also financially responsible. And I think for me, ambition and like, following the goals and the dreams that you have is really important to me, because I'm doing it, right? And like, it goes back to the same thing I was saying earlier, right? I expect you to match that. Unfortunately for me, it is really important.
Yeah, not gonna lie. Like I also early on felt as if, as long as they care about me and they just support me and make me feel loved, that's all that mattered. It didn't matter their circumstance. They didn't make no money, if they were unemployed, live with their mom still, like that didn't matter to me, because what mattered was that they cared about me. And honestly, that's how I felt for a really long time, until I realized, and yes, I agree, it feels like a really tricky thing to say and admit, because it feels uncomfortable, because you don't want to feel as if that, it feels wrong in some way for some reason, like to change your standards. It feels wrong. I don't know why. But I agree that actually, no, it's equally as a value to feel like you want someone who's ambitious, and that might show up in ways of wanting to pursue a higher education, or having a job that they've worked towards, or becoming independent from their family, or whatever it is, right? And so I think we see it as a way of like demeaning, or thinking that like it's wrong of us to like to say, just because you make less than me, it's like something wrong with you. But it's not that. It's just ways that we might see you have matured and become independent and build these values and skills that we would want in our lives as a partnership, do show up in those ways sometimes. So I don't think, at least for me, it's not, I need the man to make more money than me, or make tens of millions of dollars more, or whatever, or make nothing. It's that you want to see that drive. You want to see, those things that are important to you. And so I think it's like a tricky one to say, but it's true.
It's true.
It's true.
Yeah. It's something that I'm feeling genuinely, because I would date a lot of men that were unemployed, or, we're working like blue collar jobs, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't think it's like my standard anymore.
Yeah. And then last question I wanted to ask you was around our modern dating culture, which involves a lot of dating apps and meeting people that way.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried them? And then, what if you did not like it, which I think is going to be the case based on your reaction? What about don't you like? Like, what does it feel is kind of shifting dating for you in a negative way?
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like dating apps are very transactional.
Yeah, they are.
It just feels kind of like you're shopping for something. So I haven't
Yeah.
really felt like it's the best way. I've heard like really good stories of people meeting on there. I think ideally I would not want to meet somebody through an online dating app, but yeah, I'm not like heavily like, no, don't do it. I think if you want, with your intention of going in with like finding like a partner, I think you can do it. You can find a way. It's going to take a lot of trial and error, but I think for me, I prefer more in-person interaction, but it's also insane because I've done like online things. Like a lot of the people I've met have been through like social media.
Like, it's still not just dating apps, but like Instagram or
like
TikTok
Instagram and stuff. So I mean, like to some degree, it's kind of like that, right?
Got it. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been very interesting, but I just think dating apps like make me want to barf. Like, it's not my cup of tea. I've tried it, but I just feel like it's too much energy too, because it's like you're liking this, you have to respond to all of this. Like, I just think it's so much of an investment, and I don't have the capacity for that.
I was also going to add that I agree with you saying that dating apps feel very transactional. I also think they cause a lot of judgment. Like you are really focused on initial physical attraction from like an image, and it focuses less on like actual long-term compatibility or what they actually value. And I think although physical attraction, I do agree, is important, I'm not gonna lie and say that does not matter, but I do think it can distract you from, it can be a distraction from actually wanting to understand who the person is and what they're about, and values, and you really can't get much from.
You can't.
Yeah. So yeah, I just feel like it's quick judgment. It's not really. It's less focused on the idea of like thinking about if you are seeking a long-term relationship. It's kind of more difficult, probably. I would say the reason that I like or support people using dating apps is because I think it's a great way to practice. Like, I think you can go on dates and it could be good practice for you if you're getting back into dating.
That's true.
In the sense that like, okay, you see what you don't like.
Yeah, you learn a lot about yourself.
That's why I think it's actually a useful tool if like you have not dated. Like, maybe it's helpful for you to practice it, right? You go on a date, you're like, okay, great. I know that that's not what I like about a person now. You also just maybe get back into the groove of talking to people and how to behave on dates. So I would say, because I have done it before a long time ago when I was in the Bay Area alone and needed to make friends, like that felt like one of the ways, although I hated it and I did not like it. I think it was a great way to kind of get you comfortable again, meeting people, right? And sometimes people just seek short-term relationships, and if that's what you're looking for, honestly, it's not a bad place then for it. But I have seen successful ones come out of it too. Like one of my close friends, he's still with his girlfriend, and they're the cutest. Like who would have known? I would have never thought he would come to this place where he's in a actual relationship.
Wow.
So
it could work.
It could work.
I think
for
if you
sure.
have good intentions, I'm sure there's somebody out there too that has the same intentions.
Right. And I've seen it, but I don't think it's the only tool you should rely on. And I think it's a good practicing tool, but definitely the biggest way I'd recommend is going to spaces in person that you already love for yourself. Like, what kind of people would you want to be surrounded with?
Exactly.
And who knows if you'll meet one, right? Like for me, I met Josh at a running club, which we both liked running on our own. We didn't go there for that intention, although it's like a trend now. You go to a running club to date. Not what we did. Yeah, it's like a thing, but it's not what we did. Ew. People just always say that. But point is, I showed up to places that I love, that I already love doing, right? Whether it's running, whether it's you're into art or music, like be in those spaces where you get to bike riding, whatever it is, volunteering, and you're gonna meet people who share that value already. So you're already one step closer to meeting people around you who are gonna be more aligned with you.
That's my dream of meeting someone.
And as long as you keep working on being in those places and worrying about yourself, it's gonna come one day, naturally. And I think with the dating apps, we try to like force it sometimes a little bit, and I think you just gotta let it happen sometimes naturally.
Let it happen.
So, it could work, but I also think like it's a little bit distracting from maybe if you're looking for long term. So I think there's a ton of things we could talk about, and I don't think we've realized how much we could talk about here on this topic. So I think this is going to be a two-parter. For now, we're going to stop here. We wanted to talk about fathers in our lives, but I think that's a whole separate conversation that we can have. So we're going to dig into, to close it out with our fun game. This is a very, just for funsies, very lighthearted game in the theme of men and dating. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you a series of would you date him if, and then yes or no. And maybe these are hot takes, so y'all can give us your opinion if you feel differently. Would you date him if he calls his mom daily?
No.
No explanation. If you know, you know. Agreed. Good relationship with mom, but not obsession.
Not like obsessed, codependent.
Yeah. Would you date him if he doesn't post you online, but also doesn't post anything?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What about the opposite? Like, would you date him if he posts but doesn't post you? Does that matter to you?
I think as a reason, no, it doesn't matter.
That matters to me. How are you gonna post your friends and not your girlfriend? Sorry.
Wait, maybe I changed my opinion. Are you being serious?
Hell yeah.
I
mean, that if he posts his friends, he posts everything going on in his life except the most important person in his life. Wrong.
Yeah, that's true. No. I guess, but I have like a limit on it. Like, I don't like when somebody's like posting about me a lot.
Oh yeah.
Like maybe like once in a month.
Occurrence of, I just like, it's not even that I want like other people to know. It's that like, if I'm important in your life the way everything else you post, I better be on there too.
You know what? I changed my opinion. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good debater.
Learn the hard way. I'm just kidding. Okay. Would you date him if he doesn't have any social media?
Yes, of course.
Obviously. That's even better. Love that. Would you date him if he can't text you during the day, the whole day?
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as you communicate.
You're busy too.
Yeah, girl.
Like, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Cool.
Yeah.
Period. Yes. Would you date him if he's unemployed?
No, I'm so sorry. Goodbye.
What if he was laid off?
But what is he doing during that time?
Good question.
Follow-up question.
It depends on his efforts of not being unemployed.
Like, did you just get laid off and you're just doing dumb stuff? Like,
yeah. Agreed. Unemployed boy. What are we doing?
Figure it out. Respectful.
Would you date him if he's friends with his exes or an ex?
I don't think so. No, like I think that's very important for me. Like if it's done, it's done. Yeah, and that's a conversation you have to have with someone because maybe somebody might do it without any malintent. But
right.
Yeah, because
I agree.
Yeah, but
I really don't think you should be friends with your exes, and it's reciprocal. Like that goes the same then back. I just don't think there's a reason for those relationships. I think sometimes there's things that might tie you, right? If there's like, especially if you were married or you have kids, like okay, but to be friends and hanging out one-on-one,
no.
What are you doing?
Yeah, still be acting like
there.
There's chemistry there.
Yeah, no, like let's not do that.
Like it's just weird. I think it's weird.
Like you can make so many new friends. Why them?
Yeah, why keep them around?
No.
Why keep them around?
No. Okay. Mm-mm. Would you date him if he doesn't have any long-term friendships?
No. I'm sorry, that is really telling. Like you can't really sustain a dynamic.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, how about would you date him if he's never been to therapy?
I have dated them, but now no.
A strict no? Because like for me it would be like, okay, if you haven't been to therapy but you're a pretty secure person and like have minor how would I say it? Alarming issues, then I think it's okay. But if it's pretty alarming that you need some help and support and work through it, like that's not good.
Okay, I guess then it's fine. But yeah, if you're secure, but I haven't met a secure person.
I know. So you need therapy. Yeah. Okay. Would you date him if he doesn't like to eat vegetables?
No, I'm sorry.
That's a definite no to me.
No, I'm like, what's...
Get your nutrients.
You
need to live as long as I do.
Exactly. Eat your veggies.
Exactly.
You don't need that processed food.
Would you date him if he drinks and or smokes? At this point. And I'm asking him more because we both don't do either anymore.
Yeah.
So, does it matter to you?
That's tricky, honestly. I'm still deciding on how I actually feel about that when I like
maybe
want
when
to
you experience,
date.
you're like, don't like it or do like it.
Yeah, I think like as long as somebody has a balance of it, like if you're smoking and drinking like every week, like
right. Okay.
I just think like, you know, like that's your way of decompressing. Like, do you really know how to establish healthy coping mechanisms that aren't surrounded by alcohol or drugs?
So it depends on the relationship.
Yeah, it just kind of depends on that. Because I'm sober and like ideally I would love that, but I don't. Yeah, it's hard to find someone.
It's hard in the society for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a growing thing among Gen Z, so you never know. I think I have been open to it, but it kind of worked out that neither of us, we did it together where we stopped drinking alcohol. But smoking actually was something that I was not open to and I just was not open to it. And that's just a preference.
It's your boundary,
And you can leave or you can stay.
Oh, yeah. Curious.
Would you date him if, the last one, if he works nights and you work mornings? Like, you barely get to see him. Like, maybe only on the weekends.
No.
Yeah, I know. That's too hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's just different life. You never get to see them, basically.
Yeah. And also, like, I really value, like, the time we get to do things together. Like, if we're going to go grocery shopping or, you know.
Yeah. Especially if it's, like, a long-term lifestyle. Like, that's kind of how you work. Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Also, because I'm, like, a morning person, so I would love to go on, like, a morning hike with my partner.
Yeah, you want to do those things with them. Yeah, makes sense. Agreed. Okay. So, let's close it out with our small business shout-out of the week. I'm going to shout out my recent great friend Corisa Hernandez, who has a series called Mujeres, Money and Mezcal, and it's a financial series for women specifically, and the majority are Latina women. But she's so badass. She had like this manifestation edition, and so we talked about finances but through the lens of manifestation, and I loved it. She does a series, so if you're interested in going, she has them every quarter, so they only happen every so often, but you can look her up, Corisa Hernandez with the C, and she'll have them on her.
She's so cool.
She's so cool.
I admire her so much. Like
her style,
oh my gosh,
I love it. She always looks amazing.
So pretty. Yeah. Mine is actually something that everybody mentioned, but I want to shout out Uleu Coffee and Juice because we just hosted like our hiking event a few months ago, and they were so great to us. They were so sweet, like so flexible, so, you know, like just involved in like our mission. Yeah, and so I'm really grateful for them. Like, they really showed up that day. They even gave us like more than what we asked for when it came to like merch, and so bless them. If you all want to ever check them out, they're wonderful Guatemalan coffee shop in Boyle Heights. So you have to go support them. They do so much for the community. Yeah, it's amazing. They give so much, and I'm like so grateful for that because they get a lot of that in return. Exactly. That's a good one. Love them. And then for wellness tip, my one wellness tip in the theme of dating, in the theme of relationships, I encourage you all to go to an event by yourself or go eat by yourself. Something by yourself. Go to the movies by yourself. I actually think it's a very fun experience, and you should do that for yourself, for your own well-being. I think it's actually something that's really fun. I honestly only like shopping by myself, so do something just by yourself. Don't invite anyone. Do it, or even if it's an event, and go meet new people. That would be my tip for the week. I love doing things alone. It's so much fun. A different experience. And mine is I want to go on more like family bike rides. Oh yes, I love that. We're trying to make it more of like a tradition specifically for the holidays, but I want to do it more like on a monthly because my parents love that shit, and together it's even funner. Exactly. So love that. Cool. Okay, thank you for holding space with us today. We're really grateful to be here and sharing the podcast with you all, and if it spoke to you, feel free to share it with your homegirls, your amigas, anybody that would benefit from this. And thank you for all the love you give us. And please make sure to follow us on Instagram at Healing in Spanglish, or subscribe wherever you're listening to right now, on Spotify or on YouTube. It will support us in being able to continue to have these conversations and grow this community. So we really appreciate all the support you give us. Thank you. Con mucho amor.